Hi, this is Dovid Orlofsky. Welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. And whether you're listening on Torah anytime or wherever you listen or watch your podcasts, we are so happy to have you along. And we are sponsored this week as a refuah shlema for Ruvain ben Tzipora. Please keep him in your tefillas. It's a difficult situation. I know the situation personally. Please, the tefillas of Klal Yisrael can do wonders. Yeah. Incidentally, we just started our online Daf Yomi, and it is so much fun. I'm talking about for me. I hope the people who are participating also enjoy it. You know, we have a program where I can see the people and they can see me and they can talk. It's not like one of these little boxes where you write in a question. You can do that also if you want, but you can actually talk and there's interaction. And we just started this week, so it's really very exciting. I mentioned that because we just had in the daf just today. It said anybody who can daven for somebody for rachmim and doesn't, yeah, it's a terrible thing. So please have Ruvain ben Tzipora in your tefillas. And just a new update, and that is that Naki Radio, N-A-K-I, Naki Radio. This is where you buy your own little piece. You don't have a computer or anything like that. You have just a device that will only broadcast pre-approved material. It's a very short list, and now on that list is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. So you know now we are nucky. Anyway, what else? Oh, so the Mesilas Yesharim online shiurim are going to be starting next week. We're going to have one on Sunday and one on Monday. If you have not signed up yet and you would like to, you can. Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of fun. This is a whole new world to me because, you know, I basically sit at home and think about how I used to have jobs and stuff. And now I can see other people who obviously have nothing to do either. Just kidding. Anyway, so that's the story. That's just a little bits of business that we want to take care of. A fascinating thing took place, and that is when I first started the podcast. You know, and I've been it's a work in progress. I'm trying to figure out how to go and what to do with it, and because somebody sponsored an episode because they wanted me to talk about the seminar experience, well, they pushed the right button, and obviously we did 6 episodes discussing it. We have not exhausted the topic, but I think we've covered it more or less, yeah. And as I mentioned, I keep getting a lot of comments on a lot of different issues. The other thing that took place was that this was, to a certain extent, a game changer, because although I have discussed various problems and things beforehand, when I sat down and took one specific societal program and problem and tried to deal with it a little bit more in depth, I suddenly started getting emails from people saying, can you discuss this? Can you discuss that? Can you talk about this? Can you talk about that? I'm fascinated because evidently there is a need for people to address issues in society. I may have told this story beforehand and it bears repetition. There is this massive Shmiras Lashon evening in Binyanei Umah. Thousands of women come out to speak Lashon Hara. I mean, not to speak Lashon Hara, but to learn about how to not speak Lashon Hara. Whatever. Anyway, so it's an amazing thing. So somebody in my community of Har Nov said, why don't we do something like that for the men? And we do. And we get a very small turnout. It's unfortunate. It's one of the finest programs that are out there, and it's really unsung. And Rabbi Leff, who every year speaks, you know, we have Rabbi Leff and somebody else, you know, going to my comics, you know. So, you know, there were 2 comics in D.C. when I was a kid. One was called World's Finest and one was called Brave and Bold. World's Finest used to always be Batman and Superman teaming up together. And after a while, it used to be just Superman teaming up with somebody, and Brave and Bold was Batman teaming up with somebody, you know. So, La Havdu Elef Havdolas, we always have Rabbi Leff and somebody else. We've had some real big names, don't get me wrong, It has to be to get on with Rabbi Leff, But Rabbi Leff, the first year said, and we always repeat it, because the fellow who put out the flyer wrote, Shmiras Halashon is not just for women. And Rabbi Leff said, well, yeah, because the Cheder Meraglim were done by the men being Makabel Lashon Hara, the women didn't. So I realized that's the reason women are happy to go to these events, in the thousands, because all they're hearing about is how terrible the men were when they were Makabel Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisrael. That would explain perhaps why men aren't so excited. Anyway, as I mentioned, we had a lot of, very choshev people come to speak. And I asked Rabbi Bowman Zatzal a number of times to come and speak, and he would always push me off. And I had a relationship with Rabbi Bowman, and I knew that he was just making excuses. So I said, Rebbe, why won't you come? And he said, because I'm afraid that the public emphasis on Shmiras Halashon is being used as an excuse to stifle legitimate social criticism. Which means you have to talk about it. You have to talk about problems. There's no way to solve problems without talking about it, without being able to approach it. So I started getting emails from people saying, could you talk about this? Can you talk about that? I have a long list of topics that I would like to talk about. Yeah, because I want to tell you something. I was talking about problems in society and how, the koyach of every person. I remember I had this discussion once with Moshe Shiva of Henich Leibowitz from Chavetz Chaim. He felt a very strong need to be Marbitz Torah in America. The Chavetz Chaim sent his father, Reb Dovid Leibowitz, to open up the yeshiva to get people to be Marbitz Torah in America. He died young from all of the problems, and his son Rav Henich took over with this mission that he was going to save America. And I told him I had a whole plan. I wanted to revolutionize the approach to Kiruv, because instead of sending Beryl and Shmerel out to, Des Moines, Iowa, and say, okay, you guys open a kollel, these guys have no idea what they're doing, and we'll fund you for 3 years, So they go out there the first year, and they're just trying to figure out what to do, because they don't know. They haven't really had, nobody really trained. You have to figure out who's in your town, who there is to talk to, who's important. The second year, you can finally start making programs. The third year, you finally start to establish it, and then the funding cuts off. And so these guys don't know how to fundraise. So they start borrowing from relatives, and they start getting loans until they're so in debt that they drop out of Habatzis Torah altogether, and the whole thing closes down, and you're left with nothing. And this happens in town after town after town. So I said, send out a team. Take a city and analyze where the Jews are. How many Jews are there? Let's send out teams to all the different neighborhoods and communities at the same time. This way we can pool our resources. I had a whole thing. And Rav Henich said to me, you're forgetting the power of one person. Rabbi Yisrael Salanta was one person. Avraham Avinu was one person. One person can change the world. So I would always say this, and people would say to me, yeah, but what about this problem? What about that problem? I said, listen, if I have to, I'll save the world myself. If you want to help me, I'm happy to have your help. If not, I'll do it myself. But why shouldn't I be the one to solve all the world's problems? You'll say, because you're a nobody and you're totally unconnected. You have no money and you have no influence. True. But so what? The Alt of Navardik said, I never asked whether or not I could do something. I asked whether something needed to be done, and I knew HaKadosh Baruch Hu would give me the koyach to do it. So I look at it as, if I have to save the world myself, I will. If anybody wants to help, we're happy to have you on board. That's my approach. So I start getting different letters from people saying, can we talk about this problem, talk about that problem, talk about this thing? It's always interesting because a lot of the emails that I got were Yasher Koyach for attacking this issue. The issue of seminaries is a big issue and no one's talking about it. This is what they say. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what they say. Yeah, so someone has to talk about it. Someone has to discuss it. You can agree with me or disagree with me, but it doesn't make a difference. The fact is that if we have people talking about it, and again, based on just my small response that I've received, I can see that there are a lot of people who evidently are interested in the topic. We've got a lot of topics. So we got a lot of things that are coming down the pipe that I want to be talking about. However, as I pointed out, it's almost Shabbos Shira. Last year, Shabbos Shira, that's when we had our Australian singers. That was our first musical episode. And we're going to have to do something special for that. So keep yourself posted. In any event, when I was talking about the various problems, I was talking about the tuition crisis, how much money we're charging for seminaries. And in general, there's a big problem with tuition. And I said that I have met a number of people, honestly, less than a dozen, but that doesn't mean anything because not everybody chooses to share this information. But a dozen from people who said to me, I wish we could have more children, but we can't afford the tuition. That was the point that I made. And I got this email that I want to share with you before I give my response. You mentioned that many people have told you that they aren't having more kids because they can't afford to pay the tuition. And you were bothered by the way that the system is causing people to base their decision on having kids on the fact that schools charge so much for tuition. Yes, and in fact, what I did say is there's something seriously wrong with a chinuch system that discourages Yidden from having Yiddische Kinderlach, especially because the Gemara tells us that all the neshamas have to be born before Mashiach can come, so it's mamish holding back Mashiach. Yeah, that was definitely my position. In the same tone, you mentioned that yeshivas all have fundraisers because of lack of funds, and that you yourself aren't opening up a yeshiva because you're afraid of not having money to pay the rebbeim. Correct. So I'm actually puzzled how you are blaming the yeshivas for charging tuition and struggling to pay their bills. Are you suggesting that schools have free tuition like Bernie Sanders wants? To give free college and burden everyone in society? I have to say, this is the first time in my life I have been compared to Bernie Sanders. I mean, I've had a lot of stuff come down the pipes. So I answered him and he wrote back. There's a problem, however. The problem isn't that yeshivas are charging tuition in order to try to pay their rebbeim. I'm sure you are also aware that there are Jews who aren't religious because it costs a lot of money to buy mezuzahs and kosher food and pay for yontif and lulav and esrog on Sukkot and matzah and Pesach. Is that also a problem with the store owners and workers who are trying to earn an honest livelihood? Should stores give out free kosher food and free mezuzahs? Of course that's ridiculous. So why should anyone teach your kids for free? The answer to everything is that there isn't a solution to every problem, and there is no solution to the tuition problem either. Yeshivas must continue to charge tuition in order to function, and people should understand that it costs money for yeshivas to function. There's an expression in Chazal. Yeah? Anyone who did not see the moon, don't come to Beis Din and testify. Right? This person made a statement that I think is really problematic. There is no solution. No. You don't have a solution. That doesn't mean there isn't a solution, just you haven't thought of it. So therefore, because I haven't thought of a solution, that means there is no solution? I saw a bumper sticker once that said, the impossible is the possible that hasn't happened yet. There's no solution? So let's back up. Bernie Sanders, who's talking about free tuition, college tuition. Nobody's debating elementary school tuition. Nobody, not the Republicans, not in the Democrats, not in the Libertarians. Nobody's saying that society should not pay for public schools. Not for elementary school, not for junior high, and not for high school. Those things are not seen as a luxury. Those things are seen as a necessity. And when it comes to university, cities and states heavily subsidize state universities and city colleges because they understand that there's a value to it. But okay, but they'll subsidize it. What Bernie Sanders is saying is you should be able to go to Harvard and we'll pay for it. Okay. But anyone is saying that we shouldn't have elementary school education for children? Or high school education? I don't think there's anybody, not the Democrats, not the Republicans, not the Libertarians, who are saying don't have basic education. Elementary school and high school is not a luxury. It is basic. You need to provide that. For free? Give it for free? There's a Gemara in Baba Basra, Daf Chaf Aleph, that says the following. Zocha oiso ha'ish l'toiv Yoshua ben Gamla shmo. Shel molehu nishtachech Torah mi Yisrael. If it wasn't for him, Torah would have been forgotten in Israel. Parenthetically, in a podcast some time ago, I said it was Shiurim ben Shetach, and somebody wrote in to correct me. But the Yerushalmi says it was Shiurim ben Shetach. But okay, I saw one parish that wanted to say that the two of them worked together, and Yoshua ben Gamla had the political power to be able to push it through. But whatever, yeah. What happened? She betchila mi sheyesh lo av malamdo Torah, mi she'en lo lav lo hayalom Torah. Vishinantim levanecha. Parents used to teach their children. That was it. You got a Jewish education at home. And that worked. But after a while, it did not work. So what did he do? So they were metakein that we were going to have in every little village some type of education. And kids would come in at 16 or 17. And what would happen? The Rebbe would get upset at them. And they would leave. They would bavit. Ad shebo Yoshua ben Gamla, v'tikein shehiyeh shiva melamed tinokas b'kol medina u'medina u'v'chol ir va'ir u'manachnisan oso keben sheish v'ben sheva. He established elementary school education, says the Gemara, and he saved Torah. He didn't charge for this. He saved Torah. The story of the Chavetz Chaim's Rebbe is a very sad story. He was very poor, and so he couldn't afford to learn Torah. And it was only through a tremendous struggle that he was finally able to be able to learn. And he dedicated himself to teaching anybody Torah who wanted to learn. And he said, we're doing a terrible disservice because you don't know which Talmidei Chachamim are going to come from the poor. And we set up, you have to pay Melamed Tanokas. Yeah? So therefore, if you don't pay me, then it's Tziv. His parents almost stopped his education. It's expensive. So, do I expect that there should be a Torah education for every Jewish child in elementary school and high school? Yes. You want to argue seminaries are a luxury? Okay. But that a kid shouldn't be able to go to third grade and learn how to read Hebrew, learn how to daven, if their parents don't have the money? So, people also need a lulav and esrog. People also need matzah. Yeah, you ever hear kimcha de pischa? You ever hear kimcha de pischa? It's brought down in halacha. You raise money to make sure that Jews have matzah to eat if they can't afford it. We don't just say, well, you don't have any money, don't eat matzah. No. You eat matzah. And we raise money to make sure those people have matzah. You tell a person, well, you don't have any money, you don't get any matzah. What kind of business is that? That's our attitude to Klal Yisrael? You don't have any money, so go drop dead? I don't care if you don't have any children because you can't afford the tuition? Too bad. Who cares about you? How hard-hearted could a Yid be to talk this way about another Jew? Oh, you don't have any money, so don't become frum. You don't have any money, don't go to yeshiva. Who cares? I care. I care, and I shed tears on every Jewish soul that isn't born because the parents are afraid of the tuition. I care. And every single Yid should care. And if you can't think of a solution, cry. Shed a tear. Say Tehillim. Daven. Worry about those unborn children. How cavalier can we be when it comes to something so serious? We care so little about other Yidden. Yeah, oh, they don't have a pair of tefillin? My wife's great-grandfather, his mother died in childbirth. It was his father's second wife. He was already old. He died when her great-grandfather was 6. And he said, I left money for you with the neighbor. so that you'll have enough money to get on your feet. So after he died, he asked the neighbor, and he says, I don't know what you're talking about. He stole this little kid's money. He says, I never complained. I walked to the next town, and I sat in the shul. And that's where I lived. I sat on that bench. I slept on that bench. After a few days, people saw I was starving. So they went to families in town. They found 5 families that agreed to give me 1 meal a day. And that was 5 days a week I had a meal, and the other 2 days I fasted. And one day they come into shul, and they see I'm sitting and crying. I said, what's the matter? He says, I don't have a pair of tefillin. It's my bar mitzvah today. So they went into the shemus, they found a pair of tefillin, they fixed it up, and they gave it to him. They gave him an aliyah, that was his bar mitzvah, and he sat back on that bench. Why, we're going to give this kid a pair of tefillin? Let him go out and get a job and earn it. He should have a pair of tefillin? For what? For what? Why should I care about a little kid who's sitting on a bench and can't afford a pair of tefillin? Because I'm a Jew. I have a Jewish neshama. That's why. Because my heart breaks. If I see a Yid who doesn't have any matzah, my heart breaks. That's why there's kimcha de pischa. Because we go around and make sure that people have. So yeah, is there a problem? There's a problem. It's a problem. I went to start, I did not a complete research. I started looking at tuitions in different yeshiva high schools. Almost every one of them was over $20,000, some much more. And one of the schools said, listen, the parents demand a high-level education, and we have to provide this, and we're not getting this, and we have to, okay, so we have to charge a lot. I'm not saying no. But therefore, we can't provide a Jewish education for Jewish children? There's no solution? So here's my solution. I wish I had the power to implement it, but I will scream it from the rooftops. Because if I met a dozen parents who would like to have more children and are afraid to, I assume there are many more. So there's some people who don't care. They don't care. They'll have 10 children. They'll walk into the tuition committee and say, I don't have any money. And I said, no, other people who can't do that. They just can't do it. You know? I was once talking in a school, and they used to have, on Friday, they would have like a little, tennis, and I came in to speak, and they have other speakers come to speak, and they would sing, and they used to serve these potato cookies, delicious potato cookies. And one of the rebbeim said, there's a mother who literally has no money. She's an almana. And she bakes these potato cookies to give something to the school because she doesn't feel right not giving anything. That's all she can afford in her tuition. Potato cookies on Friday for the kids. So here's my solution. Okay? And I'll tell you how to do it. Yeah. We have to say this is a national priority. That's what we have to say. And what we do is we go to the people in Klal Yisrael who have a lot of money. And there are people in Klal Yisrael who have a lot of money. How do I know? Open up any Jewish publication and take a look at all the ads for Pesach hotels. We're not talking the lake house anymore. We're talking about we're going to fly over here and we're going to fly over there and we're going to stay in a palace and we're going to stay over here and stay this, and 3 gourmet meals and entertainment and finest speakers. Not all the finest speakers. Anyway, but I am still available. But I actually, last year I had 6 offers for Pesach and I told them all the same thing. I said, only if I can bring my family. So they said, how many rooms is that? So some people said, you're out of your mind. Chutzpah. Some people said, I really wish we could, but we can't. Some people said, we can work it out, and I never heard from them again. But it doesn't matter. But to me, the schus of going away to a hotel and not having my family with me is just not worth it. So if anybody wants to bring my family, which Kanai Hara is, it's growing. Anyway, so we'd love to come and help you program. But if not, I'm happy to stay home, yeah? So do you know that the Pesach Hotel is a multi-billion-dollar industry? Billion with a B. Yeah. There's no money out there? There's money out there. And if we made this a national priority, we have to be able to provide money that every kid can go to school without breaking a family. Now, come on. Let's be honest. Okay? You got 4 kids. Tuition is $25,000 a year, right? Call it $20,000 a year. That means after taxes, you have to have $80,000 just to spend on tuition. Being comfortable is not enough. You have to be rich if you want to pay tuitions, or don't have so many kids, or as when I was discussing this with a few people said, that's why there are a lot of people who've chosen to opt out and they're sending their kids to public schools. This is not a national priority. Shimon ben Shetach thought it was. Yoshua ben Gamla thought it was. How can we be so flippant about something like this? And so I'm throwing down the gauntlet. Like I say, there are a lot of important people who listen to this podcast, right? Not for this. They're listening because they like the jokes. What can I tell you? But we have to be able to make this a national priority. We have to say, how are we going to solve this problem? And to say it can't be solved. There was Jewish education for boys. There was none for girls. No, Yeshua ben Gamla didn't put it in for girls. You didn't need to. So then what happened in Europe is girls were going away to secular education, and they were all going off the derech. This is, by the way, when we were talking about seminaries, there were a number of girls who responded and said, listen, if I'm going to go off to university and receive a high-level secular education, I need a high-level Jewish education to deal with it. I agree 100%. Yeah. On the other hand, I got one from a Hasidic girl who says, I don't know, in the Hasidic world, we don't do this, I don't know if they're going to college either, I don't know, but if I'm going to have to face it. So we were losing girls. So it was a seamstress in Krakow who said, I know, I'll start Jewish education for girls. And she ran around to Gedolei Torah and got haskamas, and she started the Beis Yaakov movement. Who solved the problem? Chavetz Chaim? Reb Chaim Oizer? Reb Chaim Briska? The Ger Rebbe? No, it was a seamstress from Krakow. So you're telling me that there is no answer? There's a big difference between there's no answer and I haven't thought of an answer yet. Yeah. And problems are challenges. Every door has their challenges. When the Greeks introduced intellectualism to the world and they confronted the Jewish people, we never needed to prove anything. We knew it was true. We had Nevi'im if we got stuck. We knew what reality was. And they came around and started asking us kashas and kashas and kashas. And that's how the Torah Sheba'al Peh developed. Because we said, Adarabba, based on your kasha, now I first understand how brilliant the chazal is, the mitzvah is. We started to see. The nevuah was replaced by the chachomim, by the genius. Yeah, when Aristotelian philosophy was threatening the Jewish community, the Rambam was able to stand up and respond to it. When the Karoyim, the Karaites, came to devastate the Jewish people, so the Gaonim stood up and fought them and argued with them and fought them on their level. When secular humanism came along to try to destroy us, Shem Sofar Hirsch came up with responses to them. No. Yeah, there's a problem. A problem is an opportunity for people who care, for good people. And I don't know who has the ability to do it. Like I said, I'm one of the least connected people that I know. Yeah. And I know this much, though. Yeah. There are people out there who can do it. And I'll tell you what we can do if you're a small person like me. We can daven. We can shed a tear. We can care. Sometimes people call me up and they say, "Listen, I have a kid off the derech. What can you do? What can this?" I said, "I can cry for you. I don't have a magic pill that straightens people out. I don't know what it is. If I could bottle that, I'd have something going. But just because I don't know how to solve the problem doesn't mean there isn't a solution. I daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah. Atochonen lodem das. You grant the person understanding. Problems are there for us to be able to solve. And who will be the great of our generation who will finally cut this Gordian knot so that every Jewish child can get a pair of tefillin, a mezuzah to put on their door, a piece of matzah to eat on Pesach, and yes, a basic Jewish education. I don't know if it came across, but I feel very strongly about this. I know that I have a tendency to downplay how I'm feeling. But I really feel very strongly about this. And that's it for this week. I'm going to do something as a change of pace next week. I have to mix this up a little bit. I have high blood pressure and diabetes, heart disease. I can't get this excited every week. I just... I'm on too many medications. But anyway, it's smile time. That's it for this week. If you want to find out more about the show, go to RabbiOrlofsky.com where you can add comments, find out my upcoming event schedule, and contact me directly. I'm hopefully going to be making a trip in the middle of February, working on it, so keep that in mind. And if you want to find out about the new live online shiurim, Daf Yomi or Mesilas Yesharim, go to RabbiOrlofsky.com/live. If you would like to sponsor an episode, go to RabbiOrlofsky.com/sponsor. And that's it for this week. I'm Dovid Orlofsky, and this is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.
It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Knowledge and wisdom will help you grow. Lots of fun in every episode, and we don't have to rhyme. No, we don't. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show on RabbiOrlofsky.com. Torah anytime, YouTube and more. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Till next time, till we meet again. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.